Hey everyone, the Instant Camera Guy here. As I'm recording this video, it's currently Christmas Eve. Here where I live in Western Australia, it is 24 degrees Celsius. There is an amazing sea breeze blowing, and it pretty much would be impossible for the day to be any more perfect. What I wanted to do in this video is just give a huge thank you to everyone who supported the channel this year. I wanted to do a bit of a year in review, cover some of the highs and lows of things that I've covered this year, and give a glimpse into the future of where this channel's headed. Before I get into the spoilers, I just wanted to say again, and I said this in my workshop update video, but I really want to drive it home, a huge thank you to every single person who has supported me this year, whether it's simply leaving a comment on a video, whether it's subscribing, whether it's liking, whether it's sharing my page, whether it's been sending something in for me to repair, or simply leaving a donation on my Ko-fi account. I really couldn't do what I do without your guys' support. And I know basically every single YouTuber says that, everyone with a Patreon says that, but the truth is, it's true, right? Without your support, independent technicians such as myself simply couldn't exist. So I wanted to give a huge shout out to every single person. You know who you are. If you've sent something for me to fix this year, I am eternally grateful. As of 2024, this is now pretty much my full-time career and basically what I do full-time. Throughout the year, I've worked anywhere between 5 to 7 days a week, fixing cameras, producing video content, and this year I've managed to release nearly 100 videos, which I look back on and think, what the hell, when did that happen? But yeah, I think it's about 96 videos in total as of the time that I'm posting this that my channel has, which is like just an insane amount to put out in a year. And one of the funny things, like when I started the channel, when I made the migration from doing live streams on Facebook to doing YouTube, I genuinely started to think, like, well, what if I run out of content? Like, what if I run out of ideas? But the truth is, I'm only just scratching the surface at some of the things that I want to be able to do. There is just so many more things I want to talk about and I want to cover going into the next year. So for those that were along for the ride in 2024, I think 2025 is going to be even more amazing in terms of instant film content. So what were some of the highlights of this year, and what are some of the things I have planned for next year? Having only just started this YouTube channel this year, it's been rather interesting for me to dive into some of the analytics and find out which of my videos sort of did the most popular, which of them you guys tended to engage with the most, and perhaps get a glimpse into the kind of videos that I should do in the future. My number one most popular video for the year was the video where I compared the Polaroid I-2 against an SX-70 sonar that I had converted to PolaVolt lithium-ion batteries and the SX-70R PCB that allowed it to have some manual control. And yeah, at 11,000 views, it was far and away my most popular video, which, like, I'm not surprised at, but it's still sort of my opinion that comparison videos like that are just kind of silly, especially when they're such radically different cameras. I made the comparison in the video that it's kind of like comparing a high-performance sports car with a high-performance sports motorbike, in that, well, yeah, they both kind of go fast, but they'll do so in very much their own way, and I still think that that's the case. The i2 and an SLR camera, such as this 680 here, which is also manual converted and I-type converted, they're just so different. Like, they do some things similar, but they do so many things different that it's really just, it's never going to be a fair comparison. But one of the things that I might do next year is actually revisit that analysis, because I wasn't particularly kind to the i2. And the reason for that, in addition to me just personally not liking the fact that the batteries in these are not user replaceable. I mean, I did so many videos on that topic, but the main reason that I was very critical of the i2 is simply because when it was released, the firmware it had just didn't work properly on automatic mode. And Polaroid has actually since rectified that. If you didn't know already, I mean, I did a video update on that earlier this year, but basically, when I recorded that comparison video, the camera had been out for about 6 months. The the firmware would pretty much overexpose all the photos in automatic mode. It was very sort of hit or miss as to whether it would work. Like sometimes in a bright sunny day, it would nail the exposure. Other times, especially indoors, everything would just be totally washed out. I'm happy to report that that's now fixed, and the camera now actually exposes correctly. So most of my criticisms in those videos were directed towards the automatic mode. It is now a much better performing camera, and I might revisit the i2 versus SLR video in a future, next year basically, maybe when it reaches the 1-year anniversary of my comparison video. Because truthfully, I do believe it is a much better camera than when it left the factory shelves, pretty much, when it was released. It's unfortunate that we had to wait a whole year for that firmware update, but it is now a very, very capable camera on both automatic and manual modes. I wasn't particularly surprised to find that my video on how to refurbish a classic Polaroid SX-70 proved very, very popular. As far as I'm aware, it's pretty much the most in-depth video to date on YouTube that covers pretty much the main things that you need to do to fully overhaul and refurbish one of these. And I will, of course, do future repair videos on the SX-70 as I continue. One of the things I really enjoy doing is just basically doing blind repair videos where I open a client's camera, try and figure out what's wrong, diagnose it, and overhaul it all within the same video. I always like doing that kind of content, and I will continue to produce more of it. Likewise, another popular video of mine was the other comparison I did, because I always knew that the SLR versus i2, like that's a pretty obvious point of comparison. But again, I decided to just buck the trend and instead compare one of the more premium models with one of the cheaper offerings from Polaroid. And the results of that really surprised me. Again, something that I could revisit because the i2 performed very poorly due to its initial firmware. Again, it's much better now, so this might be a fun video to revisit. But yeah, one of the other videos that I thought did surprisingly well was my documentary on the SX-70 Model 3. I genuinely didn't think anyone would really be interested in that kind of historical quirkiness, and yeah, boy was I wrong. Not only one of my more popular videos this year, but also one where I believe the information contained in that video spread overnight. Like, I see over and over again people in forums and on Reddit now repeating the information that was contained within that video, because finally, like, people know the history behind the camera and why it was produced. So yeah, really, really interesting stuff for me. And basically, I think I'm just going to continue to focus on, I guess, more review type videos next year. Because you guys, I guess, it seems to be good for the algorithm at least, to do little comparison videos. But what I might do is, you know, maybe just compare various different cameras in terms of, I don't know, what situations they might be good for. You know, for example, you know, maybe comparing the i2 against an earlier box type, you know, modern I-type camera, such as the 1-Step 2. Or I might just simply do a review of the 1-Step 2, because I actually quite like these as I-type cameras. I know I developed a bit of a reputation over the last year of sort of poo-pooing a lot of the modern Polaroid cameras, but it's not actually true. I do like the way that they perform, I like the way that they look, and I like the whole, you know, fact that they take I-type film. I just don't like the fact that the batteries are built in. But beyond that, there's a lot of things about this I like, so maybe I'll do a video on that in the future. But what else can you expect from me over the next year? Well, let's have a bit of a sneak peek. I spent a lot of time with Yongmin Liu this year on the SX-70R PCB, basically figuring out ways of calibrating it, ways of improving the firmware, and ways of improving the dongle design so that it used the same 10440 lithium-ion cell instead of the built-in lithium-ion pouch cell that was soldered into the PCB. And this is an area that I'm going to continue to work with Yongmin in particular, over in 2025, because we got a lot of things that we're working on. I'm feverishly working away at the PolaVolt Portable, which is my, well, Yongmin and I's battery adapter solution for basically SX-70 Alpha, Sonar, and SLR 680 cameras, which effectively takes my PolaVolt design but sticks it on a PCB that you can then mount to the bottom of the camera. So we're working on that. I'm also working on future firmware tweaks with Yongmin and other design suggestions. More on that to come in the new year, if and when it eventuates. I want to do videos on this guy. This is all something I'm going to do as the years, as the months go by. But I want to do a video specifically on how to adapt the Polaroid Big Shot to take an electronic flash, because that is something that I figured out many, many years ago, and every now and again someone will stumble across the photos of this camera that I put on Twitter. Not Twitter, Flickr. That's how long you can tell I've been in this game. I basically posted about this adapter on Flickr many, many years ago, and every now and again people stumble across it and want to know how exactly I did it. So not only do I want to do a video talking about the history of the Polaroid Big Shot, because it's just a very interesting camera, but I think it would be important to do a video talking about the electronic flash. So all in good time, guys. Have patience. That is certainly something that I want to do in the future. And yeah, there's plenty of other very, very strange Polaroid models that I want to do sort of featurettes on, because they lack a lot of sort of crucial information, and I would love to capture that on film. I also have reviews on future I-type adapters in the work, not made by myself, but made by Polar Studio. I have... what else have I got coming? I got a lot of things coming, guys. But yeah, please stay tuned. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and hit that little bell icon, because 2025 I think is going to be a pretty huge year. And yeah, I'm going to say it again, but I couldn't have done any of this without you guys. This is my sole form of income. Like, this is how I pay the bills and keep the lights on and buy myself food and pay the mortgage and, you know, pay for petrol in my car and that kind of stuff. It's through fixing the cameras that you guys send in. And without that, I couldn't do what it is that I do. And I would very likely end up in some kind of other boring 9-to-5 job, hating my life. So I just wanted to say thanks once more for being an absolutely amazing audience. And I will see you in 2025 with lots of other goodies to come.